Once again, we're still in Session 2, Part 5, Instructional Effects on Literacy Development. The title here is Instruction Comprehension Fostering Activities in Interactive Learning Situations. Specific parent-child relationships are ideal practicing arenas for future teacher-child relationships, where the child interacts with problem-solving activities, where the parents talk through activities with the kids and talk through reading situations, the dilemmas that are going on in the books that they're reading, and how would you solve that problem, and what would you do in that situation, getting the child to critically think about things. Vygotsky claimed that children must first experience these activities with others before being capable of performing them independently. Middle-class children, normally, come to school prepared, having done this with their parents in their preschool years. The majority of lower-class children, for whatever reason, not to blame anyone, but for whatever reason, usually don't come with this type of experience. And sadly, because that puts them cognitively behind, it's a shame, but teachers usually guide them into more skill and drill type of things rather than experiencing these higher level interactive learning situations where they're critically thinking about their thoughts during reading. Deloach in 1983, in a longitudinal study of mothers reading to their children, observed the first mother only asking the child to label, and more advanced reading became the more critical and advanced the mother's questions. In other words, as time went on, even though the mothers generally began with, "This is an apple, this is a dog, this is a church," etc., then as the stories, became more complex, the mothers integrated more conversation, asking questions, thinking critically, thinking through their reading and their thoughts while they're reading with their child. This fits in with Vygotsky's zone of proximal development in that as the child advances, so does the mother's questioning. The mother's questioning is usually, and teachers, but Deloach did a study on mothers reading, so that's why we're talking about mothers here. The mother's questioning becomes more advanced, a little bit, causing the child to think a little bit higher than where they actually are independently, which fits into Vygotsky's zone of proximal development and helps them to learn further and further along. Mediated learning activities, continually questioning, and social interactive patterns that increase with intensity, as I said before, are the norm for middle-class children, who fit right into the norms of school patterns. But for those who did not experience this type of interaction, sadly the norm is for teachers to detect their low academics and refrain from social interaction for more skill and drill exercises. As I said before. Sorry, I got ahead of myself there. School reading experiences. Effective teachers are those who engage in continued prompts to get children to play and monitor their own reading activities. Effective teachers also model many forms of critical thinking for their students. According to Collin and Stevens, 1982, and Smith, according to Collin and Stevens, 1982. Smith, 1961, a long time ago, also called for teachers to ask questions that simulate drawing of inferences, the making of predictions and of comparisons, and the use of cause and effect reasoning. Actually, I find that amazing that Smith did this back in 1961 because I don't see that coming into our teaching until about the 1980s. But that's what it said. Anyway, similarly, Schwartz and Sheff in 1975 suggested that teachers encourage active reading by demonstrating their own curiosity. Saying, "Oh my goodness, what's going to happen when that dog runs across the yard," or whatever's happening. By getting exciting, posing questions, reasoning, predicting what's going to happen in next. and then verifying their references and their conclusions. Good readers are questioned about excuse me. Good readers are questioned about the meaning behind what they are reading, and they are asked to evaluate and criticize material frequently. Not just ask simple questions like, where's the chair, or which way did the dog go, or who did the cat belong to, but good questions are asked questions behind meaning, like, why did the little boy give his ball to the next door neighbor? Why did the bird fly into the tree when it started to rain? Why do you think? Thinking questions. This chapter does also point out many of the mundane and rote exercises that I'm not going to talk about here because they're bad. So I just, we can read them briefly and move on. And those are typically given to the poor readers, which ultimately leaves them further behind. It's just easier because you think, well, they missed this skill, we need to do this, and then they're left behind. Farther behind, as it is continuing to not expose them to critical and extended pre-reading and beginning reading comprehension involving activities. When I have worked over the majority of my teaching experience with ESL students across the grade levels, I like to continue the social activity, to use heritage books, to get the kids involved in the story I'm reading aloud, and to get them to think critically about what they would do in the situation. How would their parents feel if they did what this child did, and what would their family have done, and what kind of foods do their family eat, or what kind of celebrations do you have? I like to get the kids to think about that, and I've done that with ESL kids all along. I've been told throughout my 25 years, oh, you really need to just practice on grammar things. Let's work on skills and get those skills up there. But I've been adamant and continue to do the way I've taught, and the majority of my students have always passed and gotten out of ESL. Along the way, unless they were having other problems or moved away. And I'm summing up this chapter by just saying that all children, especially based on what I just said, all children need to be exposed to opportunities of being involved in activities of reciprocal paraphrasing, clarifying, questioning, forming their own questions, seeking out the answers, figuring out, predicting what's going to happen next, even next after the end of the book, and then sharing with each other and talking about, well, what made him think that? Well, what made you decide that you were going to take your story this way? It's so good to hear others' perspectives and just involve kids in the literature, making it real to them and making it part of them. All kids, and I'm saying special ed, regular, gifted, ESL, all of them. And that really helps. It helps with both reading and writing. You can't do reading without writing. You can't do writing without reading. And they need to do that. They need to draw, they need to act out, they need to think. Okay, thank you.